It's still early, but the Purdue Boilermakers have the top class in 2026.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host for today. I'm Nick Arvin, and we have an episode coming your way today guys about a very exciting topic, and that is the 2026 recruiting class for the Purdue Boilermakers, one that Purdue is currently leading. They're the number one recruiting class in the nation. Today's episode is brought to you guys by our friends at Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there's more to Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So, like I said, there's a lot of excitement surrounding this 2026 class. Earlier in the week, another huge addition to this class in a guy by the name of Jacob Weber. And even though Jacob Weber commits, there's more to be done in that 2026 class. It's still early. We're still in the very early stages of this recruiting class. But right now, Purdue has two of the top guys in that class, and they have the number one ranked class as we stand right now. And although, like I said, it is early, Purdue has the opportunity to get more additions. Matt Painter has been hot on the recruiting trail. He has the opportunity to secure some more commits, and that may be happening sooner rather than later. So let's go ahead and look over some of the guys that Purdue already has gotten. And there's two of them. We talked about Jacob Weber. We'll get back to him, but number one is the number one recruit in the state of Indiana. We can't talk enough about this guy, and that's left-handed guard out of Mount Vernon. That is Luke Ertel. Luke Ertel is the prototypical point guard, a lefty, so unique from that perspective. But when you think about where Purdue's at, when you think about the opportunity to go on a run this year, the opportunity to make it to a national championship with your guys, with Braden Smith, especially at the point guard position, although you have one more year left with them. Next year, you're going to have to find somebody new to fill that spot. And there's a lot of good candidates already on the roster this year, whether that be a guy like Omir Meyer, whether that be a guy like CJ Cox. But there's so much excitement because Purdue is able to get a very early commit. I think one of the earliest commits in the class, and they get the number one recruit in the state of Indiana in Luke Ertel. And Luke Ertel is going to be so special for Purdue when you think about the opportunity to bring this guy in, develop him under Matt Painter, who has consistently proved that he's able to develop guards like this. He's able to be the best guard developer in the nation. You bring in a guy like Luke Ertel out of Mount Vernon, and it's going to be another case of Matt Painter developing these guards into being elite players for him. I think when we stand here, September of 2025, looking ahead into the future, what the future is of this program, I see Luke Ertel being that future. He is so good. I've watched all the film on him. He's a great playmaker. He can shoot the three. He can get to the mid-range. And the great thing that he's able to do is much like what Braden Smith has been able to do at Purdue. Whenever he's able to take the ball to the rim, and then that collapses the defense and allows him to either pass the ball out or score at will. And that's something that Luke Ertel is so good at. I'm not going to make that Braden Smith comparison quite yet, but I think they do play a little bit different from a certain perspective, just the way that they like to handle things on the court. But Luke Ertel is another great point guard, another great guard that Matt Painter brings in. And just the fact that Purdue is now consistently winning these recruits. Purdue is dominating in the state of Indiana. They're getting the top recruits out of Indiana on a consistent basis. And we've talked about Purdue consistently over the years. Historically, they've been a program that hasn't necessarily been the type of program to go after these top five-star guys, these top guys in the recruiting rankings. But now it's a little bit of a different era in college basketball, whether that be some programs just flat out not recruiting high school kids. It's opened up the ability for Purdue to build on a culture that they've already developed so much. They've proven that they're the best developmental system in the nation. They're the best program at that. And when you bring in these high quality guys year after year after year, it gives you another leg up on the competition. And that's something that Luke Ertel is going to be able to provide. And then a couple of days ago, we get the commit of Jacob Weber to pair alongside a guy like Luke Ertel. And that's what brings Purdue's class to the number one class in the nation as we stand right now. Jacob Weber, movement shooter, locked down shooter. He can make any shot on the court, anywhere from three, it's going in. Jacob Weber is the perfect shooting guard. They have him listed as a small forward on 24/7 Sports, number 31 recruit in the nation. I see him more as a shooting guard, 6'6", 175 pounds, and this guy can flat out shoot it. That's going to be the perfect guy to fit into this 2026 class. When you think about how this class is already being built up, you have a point guard that can get it done as a playmaker, a point guard that can take it to the rim, a point guard that can shoot from outside the perimeter, and then you have a two guard that can shoot the ball lights out, that can move, that can space the floor, and be the perfect guy going into the future for this program. When you lose a guy like Fletcher Lawyer, Jacob Weber is going to be the guy that plugs in there, and I can see him getting consistent minutes going into next year. I think that Jacob Weber is a guy who is already ready for the moment. I think that he's a guy that honestly doesn't need a whole lot of development. He's kind of ready. I think that Matt Painter developing him will absolutely increase his production. But when you think about high school to college, that transition, I don't think Jacob Weber's really going to struggle too much with that. I think that his game is ready. I think that he's ready to kind of step in and play these meaningful games next year for Purdue. And that's just another guy that Purdue was able to secure. They beat out Tennessee for the commit. And Jacob Weber is such a huge piece for this class. And we talk about how this class is number one right now. Obviously, there are some other schools that are going to get some commitments. They're going to chase up to Purdue. But I don't think Purdue's done quite yet. And they have another guy coming up on a visit September 5th, this Friday, and that's a 7-footer, Chinese-American Sai-Nan Huan. And what a guy that is. What an addition it would be. And when you think about a Chinese-Canadian who came in this program, obviously that is Zach Edey. When you think about being able to have a guy like Zach Edey, when you think about the opportunity to kind of say, hey, this is what we did with this guy. We turned this guy into a national player of the year. I think that's a great selling point for a guy like Juan. And honestly, Purdue's been the only team that's really been hot on the tracks for this guy. He's a 7-footer with plenty of talent. And you compare that alongside another 7'4" guy in Daniel Jacobson, who's going to be here for another few years. You compare that alongside what's going to be an excellent backcourt once again next year. It's going to take some development. We see that with these 7-footers, these young 7-footers. You need these guys to develop because especially with high school, when you have a guy that huge in high school, these coaches don't necessarily know how to develop a player like that because they're so rare. But Matt Painter knows how to develop that guy. And I think that a guy like Juan is someone to be on the lookout for. We weren't necessarily on the lookout for Jacob Weber. We had some speculation that we may be getting a commitment soon, but we didn't necessarily know when that could happen. But I honestly think that we could get a commitment from the 7-footer as soon as next week. Like I said, that visit is this Friday. We have a real opportunity to get this guy at Purdue. And think about the opportunity to add another guy to this 2026 class, a 7-footer, a 4-star, add him to what's already the number one class right now in 2026. And this year gets even better. This class gets even better. And it just goes to show that we're really entering what Matt Painter can do in his prime as a recruiter. We've seen his whole tenure at Purdue has been an elite motivator, has been an elite developer, but he's really trying to step into that recruiting kind of scene, and he's really doing it at an elite level right now. And it goes to show with the quality of recruits that he's bringing in. Every one of these guards, whether that be Jacob Weber, whether that be Luke Ertel, both of those guys have the potential to come into West Lafayette as the highest ranked recruiting from a guard perspective that Matt Painter has ever brought in, even at the history of Purdue. I believe those guys both have that opportunity to come in that highly recruited. And that's what's so insane. We haven't seen this, and we've seen Purdue been so excellent for the past few years, for the past decade, over a decade. Purdue has been so excellent year after year, always competitive. And now you have this new look. You have these new guys that Matt Painter can develop for 3 to 4 years. And this team is just going to continue to be competitive. It's going to continue to be excellent year after year after year. I want to throw in one more guy to be on the lookout for before we head to our out-of-conference preview. What's going to happen on Purdue's basketball out-of-conference schedule this year. But I do want to cover this one last guy, and that is Quinn Costello. I've been talking about Quinn Costello, a guy that I'm so huge on, a guy that if you're able to bring him in, if you're able to bring him in alongside the Jacob Weber, alongside an Ertel, and if you're able to get the commitment from that big 7-footer going into the next couple weeks, and you are still able to get a guy like Quinn Costello out of Boston, Massachusetts, huge power forward, 6'11", can stretch the floor, shoot the three ball. What an addition. If you're able to round this class out with 4 guys at an elite level, Costello is another top 30 recruit. This class has the opportunity to be the best class that Matt Painter has ever brought into Purdue. And it honestly has the best class to ever be brought to Purdue in general. I'm so excited for the developments that are going to happen in this 2026 class because it's number 1 right now. And I think it's just going to keep getting better. It's such a special time for Purdue, and it's such a special time for Purdue basketball. We'll talk about these out-of-conference matchups, what to get excited for, and kind of these big games that are coming up in just over a month. I'm getting excited. We're getting excited. Let's talk out-of-conference games here next. Hey, Boilermaker fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or on Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying gas you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using my limited promo code FOOTBALL for a limited 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward, brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing a game, it's about redefining it. Because these moments do more than win. They push what's possible. They remind us to go the extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep moving the game forward. We saw Armand Branch go big in that first quarter last week against Ball State, and Mazda, they want to do the same thing. They're always breaking out, and when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. In our last segment, we talked about some recruits that are paving the way to the future for Purdue. But what about this year? What about that out-of-conference schedule? How tough is it? What are some of the biggest games? Well, we're going to go over that right now for you guys. And I want to go ahead and start right off with the game that we talked about this week. That's one that's going to be absolutely huge. And although it is out of conference, it's not a regular season game. It's an exhibition game. And is that one October the 24th against Kentucky. These two teams haven't fared off against 1997 when Rick Pitino was the head coach at Kentucky. And this one is going to be huge. At Rupp Arena, although it's an exhibition game, this one's going to feel like a national championship. This could be a Final Four preview in October, and I'm so excited about it. The great part is there's not going to be too much pressure. Although this game is going to be so amazing, we're going to see where both of these teams are at. We're going to see where Purdue is at, especially early on in October. It doesn't matter. Win or loss, we can't get too upset about it because it doesn't go in the win column. It doesn't go in the losing column. Obviously, we would love to win that one, but the great thing about it is you don't have to win that one. You can kind of get a view of where your team is. And remember, the same team that plays in October isn't going to be the same team that plays in February or going into March. And that's going to be a great benchmark. It's going to be a great, although the anticipation is huge on that one, it's not a game where if you barely lose, you can't be too upset because this Kentucky team is going to be dang good. And I would just love to see where Purdue is going to be in October. And I'm so excited that we get this one this year. I'm so excited that we get it, even if it is an exhibition. I hope that we get this matchup more going into the future. It's a great matchup, and I'm glad that Mark Pope and Matt Painter were able to get that one done. And then moving on to another big game in that out-of-conference schedule. This one comes the next month in November 13th in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last year, same matchup. Purdue gets that one done 87-78. And I think this is going to be another huge matchup this year. I think that Alabama is going to be really good. They have one of the best backcourts in the nation. Obviously, I think that Purdue is the best backcourt in the nation. So that's going to be a battle of two elite programs that have great guard play. Nate Oates always puts a great product on the court over there in Tuscaloosa. That one's going to be exciting. I hope that Purdue's able to get that one done. I think that it's going to be a game where Purdue really gets a statement win early in the year. I think that they'll be able to get it done against Alabama, and that's going to be one on the road. That's a tough game, but if Purdue's able to win that one, we're really going to know early on in November, this is a team with national championship aspirations. This is a team that can get it done against high-quality opponents. And the month of November doesn't get much easier as you go to Baha Mar for that championship game in the Bahamas. That one will be a fun little matchup. Purdue ought to be there. Then you face off against Eastern Illinois. But then December, that's where it gets tough. Early December 6th in West Lafayette at Mackey, Iowa State. Iowa State's going to be really good this year. They're going to be high ranking going into that preseason poll. I expect them to be in the top 20, and that one should be a top 20, if not a top 10 matchup. December 6th, Mackey Arena. And this is yet another opportunity, and this is kind of going to be the key theme for this segment, for this out-of-conference slate, that there are plenty of opportunities for Purdue to really cement themselves as a real player this year, as the favorites to win this national championship. There are a lot of kind of big wins that you're able to get early on in out of conference. And that's something that's going to be so great for Purdue this year, just building that resume up. I don't think that Purdue is really going to need to worry about anything other than securing that number 1 overall seed in March. But just building that resume, having the opportunity to play these big games early on, play against these good opponents. And Iowa State is going to be another opportunity at Mackey. I like the Boilermakers' chances in that one. And then the week later, December 13th, you go back to Mackey and you face off against Marquette. That's going to be a great game. Shaka Smart, once again, a great coach over at Marquette, has really built that program up, has been a coach of the year, has built that team back into kind of where they used to be. And Marquette is really going to be good this year. That Big East is going to be a conference that I think is going to be sneaky good this year. There may be some rebuilding teams. UConn wasn't as good as they typically have been in the past, but I think the Big East is kind of in for a bounce back year. And I think that Marquette is going to be one of those teams that are really good this year. The last meeting was last year. Marquette did get the best of Purdue in that one. And it's going to be interesting to see if Purdue can kind of bounce back against that team, if they can get the revenge for what happened last year. That one wasn't a great game. Marquette beat Purdue pretty bad, and I'd like to see Purdue bounce back in that one. Yet again, another December out-of-conference game that's going to really define how this team is laid out going into conference play. And then the one I'm so excited about, a week after that. So week. Big games all over the slate in December. December 20th, the Indy Classic, Indianapolis, Cambridge Fieldhouse. The Purdue Boilermakers face off against Bruce Pearl and the mighty Auburn Tigers. And I'm so excited about this one. This one's going to be my favorite, besides that Kentucky exhibition, but my favorite game that really does mean something. I'm so excited. I think that Auburn is another team probably going to win the SEC this year, if not Kentucky. I think that those are the two teams that are really going to be in it. Bruce Pearl, just like his counterpart down there in Tuscaloosa, and Nate Oates, always puts a competitive team on the court. And the big storyline in that one is really just going to be the two best point guards in the nation, Braden Smith, Sahab Pettiford, battling it out in Cambridge Fieldhouse in that Indy Classic. It's going to be a huge game in December, right before Christmas, December 20th. Mark that one on your calendar. against Auburn. That's going to be the biggest game in this out-of-conference schedule. I'm super excited about that exhibition against Kentucky. Coming up in just over a month now, college hoops is almost back, and a lot to be excited about. A bunch of big games on Purdue's schedule. So just to recap, we got that Kentucky exhibition, October the 24th. Then a big game against Alabama, November 13th in Tuscaloosa. Then you face off in that Nassau, Bahamas, that championship, November 20th, November 21st. Good game's going to be in that one. December 6th, Iowa State, trying to get another win. The last meeting in that one was 2017. Haven't faced Iowa State in quite a bit. That team will be good this year. Then Marquette, looking to get their number after a defeat last year, wanting to bounce back, get some revenge against Shaka Smart's Marquette squad. And then, of course, that big one. Circled it on the calendar right before Christmas, December 20th. Auburn, Indy Classic in Cambridge Fieldhouse. I can feel it. College basketball is almost back. Just about 50 days until that exhibition, until Kentucky, and I can't wait. We'll have more coverage on that out of conference, and when that conference schedule gets released, we'll have all that coverage for you. Love our college hoops here on Locked On Boilermakers and can't wait for it to get here. But we're talking football here in our last segment of the show. Southern Illinois comes to town Saturday in that night slate. And can Purdue get their second shutout of the year in game number 2? We'll find out here next. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For me, for the Boilermakers, Ryan Brown delivered in a big way on Saturday, throwing for over 300 yards, the only quarterback in the Big Ten to do so. No hesitation, no delay. When they needed it, Ryan Brown got it done. And that performance wasn't a fluke. And just like how Ryan Brown delivered for the Boilermakers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday with that order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Against Ball State, that offense was elite, whether that be Ryan Brown, whether that be Armand Branch, even Michael Jackson III, Devin Mockabee had over 100 all-purpose yards. That offense was elite. But a big story, something that I didn't necessarily expect, was that Purdue got the shutout. Week 1 against Ball State. Obviously, Ball State missed some opportunities. They missed 2 field goals in that one. There were times where Khalil Kelly wasn't able to make throws on pivotal third downs that kind of broke down Ball State's drive, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, that scoreboard said 31-0, and the 0 is the thing that's important here for us. Because here's my question. Next week against SIU, we saw SIU, they had a big week last year. They won huge, 49-3, I believe. And then DJ Williams, their quarterback, was elite, able to get it done on his feet. But something we didn't see last year with Khalil Kelly, he was able to get it done in the air, stretching out the field, throwing the ball down to his receivers, and racking up touchdowns. 3 touchdowns in the air last week for DJ Williams. And that's something that we have talked about. We talked about how last week those DBs didn't necessarily get challenged, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to face off against a USC team week 3 and find success against the quarterback in Jaden Maab, a team with Lincoln Riley at the helm, who we know those offenses are always dynamic. Those offenses are always looking to stretch that defense out. You need to have that game week 2 against Southern Illinois where you face off against a quarterback like DJ Williams, who's kind of going to give you the expectations of what to expect week 3. Obviously not to that extent, but it gives you a little foreshadowing of a quarterback who can get it done on his feet, but who can also throw the ball down the field and stretch that field. And here's my question. Last week, Purdue was able to launch that shutout against Ball State, but can they do it again? Last week, we saw those linebackers were really key to what Purdue wanted to do, whether that be Manny Powell, who really stepped in, got a key sack on a third down, and made his name known. Carrera was also all over the field at that linebacker position. And then Sanders Ellis is a guy who we talked about, who's kind of under the radar. He had a solid game against Ball State, but wasn't the breakout game that he was necessarily looking for. But we know that this defense is stacked. We know that Taj Ryle was huge last week from that safety spot. We know that he's going to be big in pass coverage, but we don't necessarily know what to expect against Southern Illinois. And that's why I come to tell you that this is a team that is going to want to throw the ball. We didn't see that last week or going to see it this week. So it's going to be a huge test to whether Purdue can stop that passing game. And I think that it's something that Purdue is going to be able to do. Barry Odom brings in a ton of new guys this year in the transfer portal. In one key position that he really wanted to focus on was that defensive back unit. Because last year we saw a lot of inconsistencies, whether that just be guys getting beat deep or just not being able to play with the energy that is necessary to play at as a Big Ten cornerback or safety. And this year I expect a difference. I expect it to happen week 2 against Southern Illinois, Saturday, under the lights. I think that this team is going to be able to really be competitive. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that shutout, but it's something to be on the watch for. I don't know when the last time was that Purdue got 2 shutouts in a row in the first 2 weeks. I don't know if it's ever happened, because the last time that a head coach has won back-to-back games, the first 2 games of their tenure, was like 1916. Barry Odom has the opportunity to do that for the first time in over 100 years. And it's so exciting. Week 2 against Southern Illinois, we saw Ross Aid was pumped up last week against Ball State, a near sellout. And I think that it's going to be even crazier Saturday. I'm so excited for what this team's going to be able to do, for what opportunities really present itself. And I expect that Purdue is going to build up that defensive identity even more. Barry Odom talked about it. He said this team was good last week. There's no doubt about it. And I do agree with that sentiment. I think that this team was good last week, even from a defensive standpoint. But as Barry Odom said, the focus wasn't there for all 4 quarters. You get up, and then there were some tackles that were getting missed. There were some tackles that weren't being finished. There wasn't the pursuit to the ball that was necessarily there in the first quarter and the second quarter. And that's something that Barry Odom wants to see fixed. He wants to see a team that plays all 4 quarters and starts from finish to end. And although we get the shutout last week, it's going to be harder as you face higher quality opponents. And for Purdue, you need to focus on finishing the game, all 4 quarters. And that goes from the defensive perspective. They have the talent, especially from that linebacker core. This team is going to be good, and I think that they're going to be able to build that defensive identity up. And going into Southern Illinois, you stop DJ Williams and you win that game. Control the time of possession. Don't let DJ Williams do what he wants to do. We know that he's dynamic. We know that he can throw the ball. We know that he can improvise, much like a Ryan Brown. I honestly see a lot of Ryan Brown in a guy like DJ Williams, where he can improvise. He can throw the ball down the field, and play action is something that they are going to utilize, much like what Purdue did. So a very similar offense. Nick Hill over there, head coach, very tenured, 10 years at Southern Illinois, and that's a high-quality FCS program. They've been in the Missouri Valley Conference, the hardest conference in FCS football, and they faced off against North Dakota State. They faced off against South Dakota State. They faced off against the highest programs that the FCS has to offer, and they're going to be ready going into Ross Aid Saturday. Their offense is going to look to score, and they're going to look to score early. So what Purdue needs to do is they need to limit that. Those DBs need to be in stride with the receivers. And then those linebackers, they need to be in pursuit. They need to be consistent, and they need to limit what DJ Williams is going to be able to do. Can Purdue get that shutout? We'll see. This Saturday, just 2 days away, Purdue in 7:30 slot night game. Ross Aid, Southern Illinois, can't miss it. We'll see if that defense can have that intensity that we know they can. So much to be excited for Purdue. They have the number 1 recruiting class right now. The football team is looking as good as ever, and all we can do is wait and see all the exciting things that play out. Thank you guys once again for joining me today on this episode of Locked On Boilermakers. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. And if you guys are just now hearing about me, make sure to subscribe. It always helps us out a lot because we got something really unique here. Daily content for the Boilermakers, something that hasn't been done, something that we're really trying to work out and make the best possible content for you guys. And we do have some exciting news coming your way. It's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present college football kickoff to your ultimate college football weekly preview. Jake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Thank you guys once again for joining us today on Locked On Boilermakers. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.